Hello, if you are joining us right now, we are about to do our 1-point perspective aerial view of a city exercise. So this is what it looks like started, and later on students are going to be adding more line work, more details, architectural features, and shading to create that illusion of depth even more. So how we're going to do this to start, we're going to review, though. Yesterday we did our floating cube exercise, so we went through the steps on how to draw a 1-point perspective drawing step by step. Now what we did yesterday, though, we did our horizon line first. We then placed our vanishing point. From there, we actually flipped 3 and 4 just for this particular exercise. So we added our squares after that. And then we went back to 3 and we did our converging or orthogonal lines to our vanishing point for the diagonal edges of our cubes or rectangle blocks. From there, we erased our extra lines. And the last step, we added shading for some more dimension and depth. So we're going to do kind of a similar approach today to get started with our aerial view of a city. So I need students to have a sharpened pencil or mechanical pencil is fine for now, a grid ruler, and your sketchbook open to a new page. To start, we're going to very lightly draw a horizon line kind of splitting across our page. We can just eyeball it. It does not have to be perfectly aligned. But remember, this grid ruler is see-through, so we can line up those lines here with the edge of the paper, and that helps it keep it straight across. Do it really, really lightly because we're going to end up erasing this probably later. And we're going to then put our vanishing point right in the middle this time again. Now that doesn't always apply. You'll find out in our hallway drawing later, but for this exercise we're going to put it smack dab in the middle again. Yesterday I introduced to you how to use your grid ruler. I want to remind you that the numbers, you want to make sure number 1 is flipped over and facing forward and on the left side, so that you can use it correctly and accurately with the numbers this way. So, and of course you can always turn it as you need to as you go, but we're going to go ahead and I'm actually going to do the same approach we did yesterday. So we did step 1 was horizon line. Step 2 is vanishing point. We're going to flip 3 and 4 again, just for this particular exercise. So just like we started with those squares, we're going to start out with the tops of the buildings. Now, instead of making squares, we are going to use our ruler and we can do rectangles. We can do maybe these L shapes. And I'm going to show you little tricks on how to do this. It can be kind of an elongated L shape or some type of bigger rectangle or square. That's fine. So we're going to start with just the rooftop shapes. The challenge for this exercise is that you all need to develop 10 total shapes. So I'm going to start with my ruler, making sure that 1 is here. And I'm going to start with just a square. I'm going to make sure it's straight. I'm trying to keep them kind of straight side to side and up and down. If you want to do diagonal buildings, that's fine. It just might make it a little trickier in some cases. But I'm going to keep mine simple and keep them straight, horizontal and vertical as we learn. Starting with my grid ruler, I'm going to do 1.5 inches across for my first building. So I went to this spot here. Turning my ruler, I'm going to do the same distance to make a square. And you guys can do the same exact shapes and placement as me, or you can do your own creative shapes along the way. I'm at the 1.5 here. But I'm just going to practice with this basic square first. I'm going to then do another building, and I'm going to do a line a little to the left, and I'm going to do this 2 inches down. And I'm going to use my ruler, and I'm going to make it kind of practice with this grid ruler. I'm going to do it like 3/4 of an inch, maybe in this direction. If you want to just eyeball it, that's fine. You don't have to be precise with your dimensions all the time, but make sure you're trying to keep it, the side of the paper aligned with your grid ruler so that your edges are straight up and down. Oops, too long. So 1, 2. Maybe I'll do 5 shapes on this half, 5 shapes on this half. So I'm going to space them around. I'll do kind of a funky shape for this one. See how we're doing so far. Cool. All right, guys. So again, I am just adding in a few shapes more, because right now I'm at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I just need 2 more buildings over here. And this is where we're at. Give you a minute more to do this. So remembering our steps that we did yesterday with the swap. So we did horizon line, vanishing point, vertical, horizontal lines, vertical and horizontal lines of the tops of the buildings. We're going to now do the orthogonal or diagonal lines that are converging to the vanishing point. But I see some people are still adding building rooftops, so I'm going to pause before I start that next step.
At least 10 buildings or most 10 buildings?
What's your question?
10 buildings or most 10 buildings?
Are these what buildings?
At least 10 buildings or at most 10 buildings?
You can have more than 10. That's okay. But our goal is to, at least 10 buildings. All right, guys. If you're still adding rooftops, that's fine. I'm going to repeat the next step a number of times so you can pick up wherever I'm at, and you can start on your building at your own pace. But I want everyone to hear this first important part. Before you start drawing the diagonal lines going away from you towards the ground, which is because since we're looking downwards at the city, I want you guys to choose the building that is closest to your vanishing point first. For me, it is this building right here that is closest to my vanishing point. We're going to start in the middle and we're going to work our way outwards. So with the closest building to my vanishing point, I'm going to, just like yesterday's exercise, I'm going to start at the corner here, closest to the vanishing point, and I'm going to draw a diagonal line going to the vanishing point here. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Now, because I have my rectangle placed in that spot, I have only one wall of that building going to be visible because of the placement and that it's a simple rectangle. So this looks like right now, if you're looking at it spatially, it's like a building going downwards to infinity. So what we have to do is take our grid ruler and we have to establish how tall we want this building to be. So with our grid ruler horizontal, I'm going to, and you don't have to be precise with like how the distance is, just decide on where you want the bottom of the building to be and draw that little horizontal line in between the two converging lines you just placed. Just like our cube exercise, then you will erase the extra between your vanishing point and the bottom of your building. Now this is going to get a little bit trickier once we do buildings that have corners to them, but we'll get there. I'm going to start out again with staying in my center area and doing the buildings closest to my vanishing point before I expand out. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to repeat this process. Finding another building near my vanishing point, I'm going to draw a converging line from the corner here towards the vanishing point. Corner here towards the vanishing point. And then turning my ruler horizontal, I am going to decide how tall my building, this one's going to be. Maybe I'll make it about this tall, making sure my ruler is straight with the edge of the paper. And then I'm going to draw a short horizontal line, in between the two converging lines that I just placed. Then, taking my eraser, I'm going to eliminate the extra lines between the bottom of the building and my vanishing point. Repeating this process, I'll do the same right here. And for me, in my layout, I have simple buildings right now, but it'll get a little more complicated when I get to my other ones. Now this is interesting. It's almost overlapping with another building. Super close. But there's a little sliver of space in between there for me. And maybe I'll make this building a little shorter. I'm going to draw now a line vertical this time in between the two converging lines I just placed. Then erasing the extra between the vanishing point and that newly established bottom of the building. And it looks like I erased a little extra over here, so I'm going to reestablish this edge of the building. There we go. Repeating this step on this building. I'm going to choose this corner first, line up my ruler diagonally, go towards that vanishing point. This corner here, same thing. And this is another interesting one. I have an edge, I'm going to have a really sliver of an edge of the building, probably visible from this back corner. Now that's not always the case, just depends on the placement of where your shape is, but I do have a very sliver part showing for that one. Now again, yours is going to vary because you did not place your shapes exactly where they are in the exact type of shape, but this method still applies to your design. Now I'm going to make this, I'm going to start with the vertical edge, bottom edge of that building, parallel to this line, remember, just like our cube exercise. And I'm going to do the same thing. Now where I left off with this line here, I'm going to make my ruler horizontal, make sure it's straight side to side here by using the edge of the paper. And I'm going to draw a horizontal line in between those two converging lines. And it's going to be parallel to this line here. So parallel, parallel. Then I'm going to carefully take my eraser I'm going to eliminate the extra lines between the bottom of that building and my vanishing point. Now I'm not erasing my vanishing point along the way because I'm going to keep repeating to use that as my tool as we continue on with this repeating pattern. Now once you start or expand out from these center buildings, this is where it gets kind of fun with overlapping. So I'm going to start out with a square building for me up at the top left. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out with this corner nearest my vanishing point, and I'm going to have that converging line, just like what we did a minute ago. But when I get to this corner, I need to establish this edge of this building, right? But I don't want anything to be transparent. I want these to all be solid buildings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up my ruler to the vanishing point, and I'm going to begin that line, but once it touches this building neighboring it, I'm going to stop, because that is a solid object. I can then, if I want to, I can skip over and maybe continue it here as a tool, but we probably most likely will end up erasing it in a minute. That's up to you. But then this one over here, I'm going to do the same thing because there's nothing interrupting my path. I'm just going to go all the way down again. Now this is where I decide how tall do I want this building to be. So I'm going to make it a little shorter than this building. And I'm going to do a straight, make sure it's straight with the edge of my paper, horizontal line between these two converging lines. This should be parallel to this top edge and the bottom edge parallel. And then I'm going to use my grid ruler, and I'm lining it up with that edge I just put in. Doesn't matter what number it's on. And I'm going to then do a 90-degree angle going up, but I'm going to stop at that building next door. So this is where you kind of have to be fussy and have an eye for detail on edges. But it's really fun once you get the rhythm of it. And you can start seeing those buildings take shape. I'm going to repeat this pattern again. This time I'm going to hop over to this one here and show you how to do inner corners. So the same pattern applies. I'm going to start over. How about I start over with this corner here? Looks like I'm going to have another sliver of a space happening. I'm going to go to this corner over here. And notice how I'm turning my paper too. Like sometimes I like to do that for consistent up towards me line work. That's up to you. But anyways, I'm going to draw this corner towards my vanishing point is where my ruler is angled. I'm going to begin that line but stop at the neighboring building, hop over that building, and continue it down here as a tool. Now if you have an inner corner like this building here, you're going to do the same thing that you do with an outer corner. So I'm going to identify that spot there, and I'm going to draw a line going towards my vanishing point. And outer corners right here, going towards my vanishing point, stopping at this building that's interfering, and continuing the line after it. And then the last corner for me is right here, stopping at this neighboring building, continuing down here if I want. So right now this building looks like it's going to infinity, but I'm going to establish the bottom of the building, and I'm going to make it a little shorter up here. So this line here, I'm making a parallel line, making sure my ruler is straight between these two converging lines towards the vanishing point. This little line parallel here, taking my grid ruler, flipping it horizontally, I'm going to line up one of these lines with that most recent line I placed to get a 90-degree angle in this little spot right here. I might have a little bit showing, just a little bit right here, but then I can erase the extra between the vanishing point again and the bottom of the building I just established. All right, I'll do one more and then I'll do a lap around the room and see how we're doing. So I'll do this building over here now. I'm going to repeat the same steps. Begin with a outer corner of the building. Line up my ruler diagonally, converging a line from that corner to the vanishing point. Same thing, pivoting it over here. And if there's another building interfering with that path, I'm going to hop over it. And actually, it's kind of meeting the edge here. Interesting. That doesn't happen often. Then I'm going to do this edge here. Stopping at this, hopping over that building I already established earlier. And maybe I will do, maybe I'll do it like this height. So I'm going to make sure my ruler is vertical, straight up and down. For this building, I just drew a line parallel here within this area. Using my ruler, I'm going to use this line. Make sure it's lined up with the most recent line I placed. And I'm going to just do a little L, backwards L right there. And then I'm going to erase the extra information I don't need anymore. All right, I'm going to do a lap around the room, see how everyone's doing. Nice. Wow. Making this look easy. Nice. If you have a question, let me know. Cool. Cool. Good. Just keep adding. Yeah, random shapes. Yep. All right, I'm going to finish up my buildings real fast so I can show you the next step. You guys seem to be in really good shape. So, you guys have established the outer forms of your buildings. In a moment, I'm going to explain to you how we start adding some architectural features. We'll probably do most of these features tomorrow, but I want to explain to you how to get started with them. So, going back to my other example, I want you to notice a few things. Let's start with this building on the left. So, just like if you're going down a road, if you have something that is like these windows, they are vertical lines right now on our paper, but when they're near us in the sky looking down, they're near us, the space between the bottom or this edge here and this window here is going to be further apart. But as it gets closer to the vanishing point, you move it a little closer together and they get smushed closer, 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 closer as they get further down that way. So then anything that's going away from you will be converging towards the vanishing point, like this line. And you pivot your ruler in this line. So I'm going to do that simply on this building again. And I'm actually going to erase my horizon line because I don't really need that. It's kind of confusing me. All right, so I'm going to start out with my ruler, and I'm using it because it's clear to line up this edge here. So I'm going to do a vertical line parallel here, and then I'm going to squish it a little bit more. And I'm going to squish it a little bit more, and a little bit more. So you can see how even just having those few lines spaced differently apart, it makes it look like it's further down. But I'm going to use my ruler, and if it's a line that's going away from me, it should be converging towards that vanishing point. Just like that. Now, as I'm working on this, I can also think about the rooftop of that particular building. So this is the fun part where you can think about. I personally like to add a mini rectangle or shape inside of it so that it looks like there's a wall or edge to the building. So I can just carefully shift my grid ruler around to make this fine edge to the top of the building. And then you can decide, do I want a skylight? Let's say it's a glass, one of those windows on the roof that has panels, maybe is angled up and I can do some shading. Maybe there's a helicopter pad. Maybe there's a rooftop garden. Over here, I did a swimming pool on the roof. I had a diving board and a tube and beach chairs, even though I'm pretty sure diving boards are not allowed on rooftop pools. In my world, it is. But then, you know, you could do that helicopter pad. You could do any other electrical boxes, whatever you think would be on top of a skyscraper. You guys can use your imagination. So it's kind of fun as you design that. But that whenever you're doing the walls going down the skyscrapers or buildings, again, you have to use that method of things that are repeating going down are closer together, and things that are going towards your vanishing point need to be all converging. So that method, you can see how even in this building, I had a little variety. I did the corner edges. I'll zoom up on it for you. I did the corner edges vertical towards the vanishing point. Here, here, here. And you can design, do you want, you know, other ridges in the corners of the buildings? Do you want tall glass windows in a different design or pattern than the windows that are above on the upper floors of your building? You can do, you know, little gargoyles or whatever you feel like architectural. Maybe they're arches. You can kind of do some fun little features as you go. Now, tomorrow I'm going to show you guys a little bit more about shading. Just like our cube exercise, you're going to do some shading, but you're going to have it consistently so that you have a consistent light source. And then we can do some blending techniques tomorrow too. But this is what we're going to be working on in class tomorrow. You guys can keep designing, brainstorming, you know, adding different elements to it as you go. And that is all for my demo for today. But how about you guys keep working for the next 3 minutes, then you can put your stuff away. Thank you for watching, those that are watching the video.